Okay. I would like to call to order the RSU 14 Wyndham Raymond School District Board of Directors meeting. It is 6:30 p.m. on July 15th, 2020. We're using Zoom video. Mr. Howell, will you call the order, please?
Kate Bricks.
All right, I think I'm working. Hi, guys.
Kate Bricks.
Yes.
Jenny Butler.
Present.
Jenny Cummings.
Here.
Marge Gavoni.
Here.
Pete Hensler.
Here.
Anna Keeney.
Here, finally.
Kate Levier. Scott McLean. And Christina Small.
Here.
Are there any adjustments to the agenda, Mr. Howell?
We do not have any adjustments to the agenda tonight.
Okay. And now we have time for, oh, I'm sorry, we didn't do the pledge. That's the most important. Will you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Marge.
Welcome.
Okay, so now we have an opportunity for public input. If the public wants to comment on anything, on any items not on the agenda.
And Jenny, I'm going to go ahead and unmute everybody who's present on the phone, and if they want to,
Okay,
anybody wants to speak?
all right, seeing no one, oh, I have one person. So 615-2028, would you like to speak?
No comment.
Hi, Scott. All right, okay,
Hey, Janny.
yes,
Hi, sorry, this is Rebecca Cole, first grade teacher at primary, MEA Board of Directors, NEA Board of Directors. I just wanted to thank everyone for their support of the school budget. I know that everyone is anxious and wondering about what the fall is going to look like. I think that that's true for everyone, but I think that passing a budget that provides us a great opportunity to start off the year well is a good start. So thank you to the community for their continued support of our schools.
thanks, Becca. Okay. Now we're going to have a presentation from Chris Howell, an overview of the negotiated agreement with the Raymond Withdrawal Committee. Mr. Howell?
Sure, and I know we have a number of people who are listening with us tonight, and I know it's difficult to be able to listen and then hear someone doing a presentation. So for anybody listening, if you go to the RSU 14 website and click on the tab under board and look for board agendas, a copy of the presentation that I'm doing tonight is posted there. So if you want to follow along, you are more than welcome to. And of course, this presentation will be presented as part of the minutes later on. So if anybody wants a chance to see that. Also want to introduce everyone to Bill Stockmeyer, who's joining us tonight for questions. Bill has been the legal counsel for RSU 14 and has helped guide the RSU 14 Withdrawal Committee through this process that, believe it or not, we started the 1st of April back a little over a year ago now. So Bill's been the person who's kind of helped us through that process. And so once again, Bill's here for any questions that the board might have as we go through. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my presentation, and I'm going to do a screen share so that all of you can have it. Board, this is also in your packets. So if you want to follow along with your packets or want to follow on the screen, either one that works for you. Oh, sorry, I hit the wrong one. I meant to hit present. Again, this is a process that we started working through negotiations with the Raymond Withdrawal Committee back in April of last year. And just for the public, just a quick overview, a citizen group initiated a request to have Raymond withdraw from RSU 14, and that was back in August, almost 2 years ago. And a Raymond Withdrawal Committee was formed that included Ralph Olson, who's a select board member.
Hello, can anyone hear me? Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Yes, did I miss the public to speak? I was trying to speak up and I don't think I got heard.
Didn't know that you were there to speak. I'm not sure what we should do. We're in the middle of a presentation at this time.
I was on the phone. I was trying to speak up, but can I have a minute or am I too late?
I'm really not sure. I guess what would be the feeling of the board?
What, is it not something on the agenda?
Correct, yes, it's not something on the agenda.
Danny, as chair,
Yeah.
it's your choice.
Right, I understand that. I was just trying to get a sense of what everyone else would like to do. I think just as we have just begun this presentation, that it's fine since we are in a somewhat irregular.
Yeah.
If you would like to speak, I can give you some time right now.
Great, I appreciate it very much. Thank you. My name's Ken Clark from Wyndham, and I think I've met most of you before. And I just know there's I heard some ideas being kicking around for what might happen going forward for the fall. And I heard maybe 1 day a week, kids might be going to school. But anyway, I just had a thought and just wanted to share it. I know that some of the schools, when my sister's kids attended, they set up the audio and video in the classroom, and the students literally just logged on to each class as it going through their regular day. And my thought was that keep the bus schedules the same, the school schedules the same, and just put half the kids in the classroom one day, and the others would log on from home. And then the following day, that other group that was home would go into school, and the other group would go home. And I don't know what's going to happen and what options are being kicked around, but I just thought that this enabled everyone to stay in touch with school, and then half the group, in the interest of social distancing, only half the kids would be in the classroom at a time, only half would be on the bus at a time, only half would be in the cafeteria at a time, but yet they would go through their routines just somewhat as a normal school day. Just every other day they'd be at home, and it seemed a lot simpler than some of the different bus schedules they're talking and that type of thing. So I just wanted to put that in the back of the minds of the people who are making decisions.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. I appreciate your letting us know your ideas. You know, it would be really helpful if you could write these down and email them to Mr. Howell, and he can put that as I'm sure it's one of the things that has been thought of, but he can put it in a list of ideas that we will have, of course, all based on what the DOE tells us.
Okay, fair enough. All righty.
Thanks very much for your input.
Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
sharing,
Thank you.
absolutely.
All right.
All right, Mr. Howell, sorry for the interruption, and please.
No worries whatsoever, because it's a process we've been doing for a while, so it's becoming something that we can continue to work through. So there's the listing there of the individuals in the Raymond Withdrawal Committee who thoughtfully thought through working this for Raymond. For the RSU 14 Withdrawal Committee, just want to thank Pete Hensler, Marge Gavoni, and Scott McLean, and also Eric Colby, who worked on this on the subcommittee, and again, thoughtfully thought through what would work best for RSU 14. This process takes 22 steps to complete, and I know there were some individuals who might have some concern that tonight we were deciding whether or not Raymond is leaving. Right now we're completing step 8, so we're still a little bit of ways away before all of this can happen. And anyone who's interested in learning more about the whole process for withdrawing, Maine Revised Statutes, Title 20A, subsection 1466. So we just want to talk a little bit about the agreement and what's contained within the agreement. And I know those on the committee, you've spent a lot of time on this, so this is old hat. And I know for members who've not been part of this, you may have some questions. And so the way I've structured this is, this slide was actually a slide I did for all of you on April 9th, like 2019. And that was the point in which we were embarking on this journey. And here we are at the end of the journey. And so it's really the answer to all these different questions. So negotiating the educational services, establishing the withdrawal, taking the end of the year, that the withdrawal will not create a need for a new state school or state-funded school, to talk about transportation, provide for the administration of the new administrative unit. Something we spent a lot of time with, distribution of financial commitments, outstanding bonds, notes, and other obligations. Just distribution of any outstanding financial commitments to the superintendent. Continuation and assignment of collective bargaining agreements. Continuation of continuing contract rights. Disposition of real and personal property and other assets. And then the agreement must provide transition of administration and governance of schools to the properly elected officials. So I'm going to run through these. And again, board members, if you have questions, you can either ask as I go through, or if at any time you want to ask a question at the end, we can do that. So first bullet here, negotiate educational services and secondary tuition for all students in the withdrawing community. Students have the right to stay at their previous school or program for the first year. So it's important for the public to know that in year one, there's a stay put into place. Students can remain at their current school placement. Subsequent placements for K-8 will be subject to a tuition agreement. For the high school students, the previous tuition agreement between Raymond and Windham will be restored, and that was an agreement that was negotiated prior to the construction of Windham High School. Within that agreement, Raymond must send a minimum of 50% of high school students to Windham High School. Raymond retains school choice, and so students may choose not to go there. And just so the public knows, over 80% of students right now choose Windham High School as their primary high school. And then special education costs for students attending Windham schools will be directly billed to the new Raymond SAU. And special education costs that are in Raymond, the new Raymond special education director would be responsible for determining what those costs and programs would be.
Can I just offer a point of clarification as well for anyone that might be listening?
Sure.
While this is a presentation on the agreement, I just want to be very, very clear that right now in the RSU, Raymond continues to have school choice. So it is an option as this exists for Raymond students to attend high schools outside of Windham High School.
Thank you, Anna. So next bullet, established withdrawal takes place in effect at the end of the fiscal year. If this is approved and if the Raymond voters choose to create the new Raymond SAU to come in existence on July 1 of 2021. Confirmed the withdrawal not create a need for state-funded construction. There is nothing with this withdrawal would create a need for any new school, so that's established. Transportation services, which I know is a question that parents often have. New Raymond SAU will be responsible for student transportation and repairs for all of their students, their K-12 students. And within the agreement, any buses and vans that are currently servicing Raymond students, they're going to be transferred to Raymond. And those are the ones that, again, are currently doing those routes. Those vans and buses are specifically listed within the agreement. But again, they're the ones that are currently serving. And then for Raymond tuition students who are accessing Windham High School, the current shuttle point, which is Sherry Gagnon Park, down on Depot, right? That's Depot Road that goes, that students would then continue to be shuttled from that point. So
It's Mill Street?
Mill Street, sorry. All right, we move on here. Agreement must provide administration of the new administrative unit. Election take place for a new Raymond School Board, and that new board will be responsible for the selection of a new school superintendent. So as superintendent of RSU 14, I would remain as superintendent of RSU 14, and again, a new superintendent would be selected. Agreement must provision for the distribution of financial commitments arising from outstanding bonds, notes, and any other contractual obligations. So the committee looked at current debt associated with bus purchases, and those are those buses that will be assigned to Raymond. For vans, for boilers, there's new boilers that new boiler put in Jordan Small, and the laptops that are currently under lease purchase in Raymond would be assumed by the new Raymond SAU. And all of those things have been determined. And must provide for appropriate distribution of any outstanding financial commitments to superintendent. The new Raymond SAU will not have any additional commitments. So once the new SAU comes into existence, again, they will be responsible for their own superintendent at that point. Getting into staff, and this is where we've received some questions from some of our current staff members. So agreement must provide for the continuation and assignment of collective bargaining agreements. So any staff member who works greater than 50% of their time in Raymond will become a Raymond employee of the new Raymond SAU. And the current contract agreements will be assumed by the new Raymond SAU, and board members, you know this, but the public may not, that we were negotiated a 1-year agreement with professional staff, support staff. So those are August of 2021 and June of 2021. And then a new 3-year contract with the administrators, which was done in January to June 2023. And any staff members who are finishing up probationary years and have continuing contract status will retain that continuing contract status as they move to the new district. And this is also a question we received. What happens with all the assets and with fund balance and with personal property? So 35% of fund balance, which is the same percentage in the cost sharing formula for local additional, is transferred to the new Raymond SAU. And that would be the final audited amount that would happen for this fiscal year. Deeds for Raymond Elementary, Jordan Small, and any other property that was assumed by the RSU would be transferred back to the new Raymond SAU. And each party will be responsible for its own legal fees throughout this process, because we know that there'll be legal fees associated with deeds and transfer of property. New Raymond SAU would be responsible for that, and then as the SAU, the RSU, we would then go ahead and also have our legal counsel look through those as well. So that's really a thumbnail sketch of what is within this. The final withdrawal agreement must be developed and submitted to the commissioner. And again, this was the old slide by June 30, 2020. Due to factors with pandemic and other inabilities to meet, this has run a little bit longer. We're meeting tonight because we received assurance from the DOE that if they have this agreement by, I think, tomorrow, Bill, that they can guarantee that a November election can happen, which would be the withdrawal vote November 2020. There will be need to be a public hearing by the Raymond Select Board as to all the different components of what this looks like, as well as the merits of that. In addition, that board will have a chance to produce the budget and talk about the budget they've done. And again, if the vote is successful, July 1, 2021 would be the first day of operation for the new Raymond SAU, which is just under a year away. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and bring us back. And if there's questions that the board might have for the agreement or questions that they might have for Bill.
Jenny.
One question I had was regarding high school students. In looking over the contractual agreement, it said that the percentage was 50% or higher for 10 years. Is that how it was written back in 2002? Or is that different now?
This is Bill Stockmeyer. I think we drew the language directly from the prior agreement. By law, a tuition contract may only be for 10 years.
Okay.
So we're limited that way.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? Any further questions? How is the public meeting that the Raymond Select Board, how is that published? And are there any requirements to it?
Phil, do you want to take this?
I do. I think I may have to pull up my copy of the statute. So if you just give me a second here.
Okay.
Okay. So if the commissioner gives conditional approval of the agreement, the commissioner will notify the RSU board as well as the Raymond municipal officers of the time and place of a public hearing. And interestingly, this is actually a public hearing conducted by your board chair. Although I think the reason for that is because there is no, Raymond School Committee, although the statute might have picked the selectmen. So the board posts a public notice in both towns of the time and location of the hearing. That notice gets posted 10 days before the hearing. And then following the hearing, for unexplained reasons, the Raymond Withdrawal Committee then has 30 days to forward a final agreement. I don't know why that takes more than 1 or 2 days, because the report will be, a hearing was held, X number of people attended, people had mixed views. There's not much more to say. The hearing doesn't change anything. That's where they're a little behind schedule, frankly, because of the pandemic. They're going to catch up some time there. So to answer your question, legally, the legal notice is a posted notice posted by this school board, and presumably it will be up to Raymond, should Raymond wish to advertise it beyond that. So one can imagine they would use the town website. They might decide to publish something in a newspaper, but that's not legally required. The district might decide to put it on its website, but that's not legally required. So, as I say, technically and somewhat counterintuitively, that's a hearing of this school board on the agreement. Then there will be another hearing. So after that hearing, the agreement goes back to the commissioner again. The commissioner then approves it with any corrections, and then the municipality has a hearing. That hearing has to be, the DOE website says 45 days before the referendum. I think the legal requirement is now 60 days. No, I'm sorry. The hearing is 10 days. I'm sorry. The hearing is 10 days before the referendum vote. So that hearing will be called just in Raymond, and that's a hearing conducted by the municipal officers. So 2 hearings, if you will.
Okay. So the first hearing is we call that, and that can be any time. Is there a time limit, a time period after which, after this committee meeting, or after, should we vote to send this agreement on, do we have a time period from which we need to have a meeting? And secondly, how is that meeting held? Is it a Zoom meeting? Is it a?
During this environment, these hearings can be by Zoom meeting, yes.
Okay.
What the statute says is you hold the hearing at least 20 days after hearing from the commissioner and no sooner than 10 days after posting.
Okay. All right. So if it gets to the commissioner tomorrow, we have no idea when we'll hear from her.
Apparently, we're going to hear from the commissioner in about 20 or 30 days. They've already been looking at a draft of this agreement, knowing that Raymond is a little behind schedule.
All right.
It's been common for them to give dire warnings on the DOE website as to the deadlines, and then to more or less waive the dire warnings to a certain extent to try to facilitate things.
Okay.
But I will say, if this agreement, I have been told that so this agreement needs to be signed by the board chair, and it pretty much needs to get to DOE tomorrow. Beyond that, there's a significant risk that the election won't happen in November.
Okay. All right. Okay, so the only, unless someone else has a question, Marge?
Just so I want to make sure I understand this. So the first meeting, Janie calls the first meeting, and is it our board, and is it with Raymond? I'm trying to understand that.
It's a public hearing.
First public.
It's a public hearing
For
conducted
Raymond?
by your board, posted in both towns.
Okay.
Okay, so it's really an RSU hearing, although my experience is that it's of much greater interest in the town withdrawing, of course. Your situation is a little bit unique because you have just two towns. But this first hearing is a hearing of the RSU board.
So
And that would
is
be
it a
held,
hearing where we are looking,
I think it's just public comment.
are we looking for public?
Yes, public
Okay.
comment.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
At which point, and I'm so sorry, I'm just trying to follow along. I'm trying to find the clear line of when the withdrawal committee in Raymond needs to be present and answering to the folks in Raymond.
So following that hearing, the agreement goes back to the commissioner. Then the commissioner determines a date of the vote. And then, as with any municipal referendum vote, there will be a public hearing at least 10 days before the vote. That's a hearing of the municipal officers, not of the Raymond Withdrawal Committee.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jenny? You had your hand up.
Yes, I did. In regard to a potential new middle school, what impact would separation or withdrawal by Raymond have? What kind of effect would that have on a potential new middle school?
Jenny, it actually wouldn't have any impact because the plans for a new Wyndham Middle School did not include the kids that would be attending Jordan Small.
Thank you. I wanted to make sure everybody heard that out loud.
Okay, now, is this an opportunity to talk about the budget or the proposed budget, or should that be saved for the hearing?
Bill, if I could just maybe take this for a second.
Sure.
I think one thing, Janie, that's difficult with the budget is that the RSU 14 Withdrawal Committee did not develop the budget. We contributed when asked information, and I know the Raymond Committee worked off of version 9, which is the budget that all of you worked off of. But as far as the detail of that budget and what's included in the agreement, we don't have that, and that would be a question, I think, for the Raymond Withdrawal Committee as to how that was established and the detail behind it.
All right. Well,
I
if,
would add that we did include some language that the RSU, some express language stating that the RSU and its board have had no involvement in the development of that budget and have no responsibility for it. That's solely a matter for the Raymond, the town and its withdrawal committee.
okay. So I guess we would have to reserve any questions about the budget for the hearing. For the second hearing, the first hearing, I guess we'll need some more time, some more information about those hearings. Perhaps Chris can work that up with you so we have a clear idea of what exactly the steps are.
It would be perfectly appropriate if there are questions that can best be answered by the Raymond Withdrawal Committee to, when that hearing is scheduled, to ask them to attend.
Oh, I would hope that they could, yes. Okay, Kate Bricks.
Thank you. I'm curious whether we're just seeing this budget now. I'm curious whether Raymond residents, was there a public hearing or anything to review this before we got this budget?
Not that I'm
It's not
aware
a-
of, and I doubt it.
Okay. Thank you.
Chris, are you aware of any
No,
hearing locally in Raymond?
No, I don't know who's had a chance to do it. I will speak though on behalf of, I believe on behalf of the committee though, the budget that they presented is a realistic budget for current cost for Raymond students. So I will have that, I'll add that. I mean, I've had a chance to take a look at the numbers, but as far as the detail and the positions that are there and related to them, I don't have that detail and I've not had a chance to look at that.
And perhaps we will have chance. I mean, we would need to have, Raymond would need to have an opportunity to have a lot of detail so they could make an informed decision. Okay, are we all set? Is it an opportunity to go into executive session?
Before we do that, can we just be clear for those on the phone that we're going into executive session? We will come back and there will be a chance for public comment as part of the next motion. I know we have a lot of folks that are here and looking for their chance to speak. So I just don't want them to see us go into executive session and lose hope. We are coming back and we will have the opportunity for that.
And it might be a quick one because I think we've asked a lot of the questions that we wanted to ask. Okay.
Jenny, just maybe before we go in executive session, maybe just a quick question of board members. Do they have a specific question for the attorney that should be handled in executive session? Because if not, then just stay in session.
I don't see any new questions, so I guess that seems fine.
Mrs. Brooks, you were going to say something.
Sorry.
You know, this has come fast and furious to the board. I mean, as of Friday, we weren't even going to have a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So, not that I have any questions per se, but I would like a frank discussion with the committee and with our attorney, because it's really unprecedented for us to make a vote on the same night that we hear this information. And frankly, I'm a little concerned that we haven't given Wyndham folks an opportunity really to be notified in a timely manner. So I'm fine with the majority if we don't go into executive session. That's just my view. Thank you.
Just so you know, Kate, it's not just Wyndham folks. Raymond folks haven't been notified either.
Well, I'll take a head nod. Who would like to, or raise your thumb if you would like to go into executive session? 1, 2. I think we should go into executive session. Okay, so Christina, could I have a motion, please?
I move to approve going into executive session to discuss withdrawal negotiations pursuant to 1 MRSA subsection 4056C.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Mr. Howell?
Marge Scavone,
Yes.
Janie Cummings,
Aye.
Christina Small,
Yes.
Jenny Butler,
Yes.
Kate Ricks,
Yes,
Scott McLean,
Aye.
Pete Hensler,
Aye.
Anna Keeney.
Yes.
And Janie, before we go into executive session, if I
Yes.
could just make the recommendation to those who might be listening right now, we log off to go back to the same link, and when we come back from executive session, then we'll come into that session and they will just be in a holding pattern until that comes. That way they don't miss us coming back.
All right. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to a new one and we'll see you on the flip-flop. Okay.
1 second. I usually have it up, but my whole thing is messed up here. Okay, ready? Okay. I move to approve the RSU 14 Withdrawal Committee's recommendation to approve the negotiated proposal with the Raymond Withdrawal Committee.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment? Okay, this is an opportunity now. People who would like to speak. Okay. 6861, if you would like to speak. Go ahead. I'm using phone numbers. So the person, nope, they've left. Okay. The person who is with the phone number 1973, would you like to speak? Okay.
Hey, Jenny.
Yes.
Sorry. This is Jamie McAlpine.
Okay.
I'm a resident of Wyndham, and I'm also the president for the Raymond Wyndham ESP Association. I just wanted to double check to clarify when Chris was going through his presentation, and he was talking about the terms of the contracts. With us agreeing and doing the 1-year contract this year, would that leave the Raymond staff with no contract when they started as of July 1st?
Do we have anyone who can answer that?
I'll take a stab at it. There would be an expired contract. And one of the first things that the new Raymond School Board would need to do would be to start negotiating with those support staff members to establish a new contract.
I'm wondering though if they would even be I don't think they would be a bargaining unit because they would be leaving ours, is my concern.
That's ours as well. It would be the same with the teachers.
Right, exactly. It would basically leave everybody with, I mean, they could create a new contract, of course, but there would be no, they'd be going in with no collective bargaining unit, so the staff would have no negotiating power.
Jenny, did you have?
When we went ahead and because of COVID and lack of being able to get together and actually bargain with both the teachers unit and the support staff, wasn't the presumption that we would be actually doing bargaining to extend both of those contracts throughout this school year, which is before the Raymond would withdraw if they vote in favor of that?
Bill, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe once the vote is taken by the citizens of Raymond and the new Raymond SAU is formed after the November election, then any bargaining authority by the RSU with that entity no longer exists. Is that correct, Bill?
I think that's correct. I think one of the things that Raymond has to do is vote in its first school board, which will need to be responsible for negotiating a successor contract. In other words, they would need to be doing that. Technically, they come into existence as a school administrative unit on July 1st, but there are interim responsibilities the first elected board has. They have to elect a superintendent. They have to prepare and submit a budget. They have to, in this case, I think, negotiate for a successor collective bargaining agreement. But of course, there will be a period of time before that school committee is elected.
Can I,
Anna?
can I have, thank you. I just want to, as a resident of Raymond, as a school board member, I want to be really open. I will vote tonight in favor of this agreement because I believe that it's been a ridiculous lack of communication as a Raymond resident. We've had no communication. We've been kept in the dark through this entire process, and it's been dragged out needlessly and irresponsibly by those responsible for it. So I will vote to agree to this so that it can be on the ballot in the fall. With that being said, as a Raymond resident, I would encourage every other Raymond resident to really look at this carefully, look at the committee that's been put out before us and the actions they have taken so far. It's been incredibly irresponsibly handled. They've been holed up in their own little world and not receptive to an ounce of anything. And I can't express it enough how crucial it is for those of us that do live in Raymond to educate ourselves and get out there and speak our minds, because it's been very clear that we're not going to be given very many opportunities to do so. So we may have to take those opportunities for ourselves.
Thank you. Okay, I have, whoops. It's somebody who, so if the person with the phone number, no. I did have,
Danny, this is
okay.
Danny. Can you hear me?
Are you 5411?
No, this is Susan Brackett. I didn't know how to get on the list.
All right, go ahead, speak.
So this is Susan Brackett. I'm a resident of Raymond and a fourth grade teacher at RES. I also have two kids that have or are currently enrolled in the Raymond schools. And I taught in Raymond before we became a part of the RSU, and then obviously after as well. As a result of some of my experiences, I just wanted to express a few of my concerns about separating from Wyndham. And so first and foremost, I think that the separation will have a negative impact on the education of the children of Raymond. For one, we currently receive Title I funding to support struggling learners. And if we separate from Wyndham, I'm afraid that we'll most likely lose this funding that will impact our learners in Raymond. In addition, I'm worried about losing many of the amazing specialist teachers that we've been able to get as a result of joining with Wyndham, because now they're finally able to work full time. Before, we had to hire like 2/5 and 3/5 positions for art, PE, library, computer, and music. So as a result, there was a lot of turnover. And, so if we end up separating, I think my fear is that we're going to have to go back to those part-time teachers, which doesn't help us to attract and maintain the best teachers for our students. And I also fear how students will be impacted by identify the potential loss of literacy, special ed, and math coaches. They've really been instrumental in developing curriculum and helping teachers and helping students, and they've been a great support for teachers and students. And I'm worried that if we separate, we'll lose the funding for some of those positions as well. Finally, with so much up in the air due to the coronavirus and everything that's been going on, I definitely don't think that separating at this time will have a positive impact on our students. It's just one more change for them. So these are just kind of a few of the concerns that I was thinking through throughout the day. So thanks for listening.
Thanks, Susan. As you heard, we will have 2 more hearings. I hope you can bring those concerns to those hearings as well.
Janie, you had mentioned my number, 5411.
Yes.
This is Teresa Sadak.
Okay.
As you guys know, as far as negotiating any kind of contract, it has to be confidential. That's the reason why it hasn't been put out there. And I missed the first 20 minutes of the explanation, and I apologize for that if I'm repeating something. But Attorney Stockmeyer should also know that, and it mentioned that this stuff couldn't be discussed at public meetings when we were going back and forth. And it was the 2 committees that were negotiating this that were in executive session. So it's kind of on both sides. We had a negotiating committee on our side, and we had a negotiating committee on your side. So it wasn't put out there. And all of a sudden, there is a meeting as far as this budget goes. We had broken down, and I know Rolf Olson would give updates, and the updates that he would give is that it was in your guys' court is what it is. So that's another thing that we've been waiting, and we ask our attorney and we ask Mark Eastman what's holding it up, and that hasn't been mentioned either. So, but we cannot, in any kind of contract negotiation, put out there what we're discussing. And I know a lot of the questions that came to Raymond are things that we were discussing in the contract. And now that the contract is being put out there publicly, we can now discuss, we can now answer questions. And unfortunately, yes, we have been thrown into this COVID, but we could not legally discuss any of that when it was being negotiated, just like the teachers' contracts can't. And Attorney Stockmeyer, I'm really surprised that you did not. And again, I may have missed it, but we cannot discuss that when it's in negotiations. So that's why, and as far as what Anna had just said, that we haven't put anything out there, it's because we have been negotiating, is what we've been doing. So saying that we are hiding in our own little wall or world or whatever is very inaccurate, because again, it was being negotiated, and that's one of the steps that we are following. We are following the steps as to the key. We have an advisor and we have an attorney that's leading us through this. So we are not just picking and choosing what we are doing. So I think those are wrong and inaccurate comments, Anna, that you have made. Now what we need to do, now that this has been out there and you guys are voting on it tonight, we're going to meet right away after to be able to vote on it also. So I just wanted to clear up a few things. I was going to keep quiet, but some of the stuff that's being said, and actually your board that is on that negotiating committee should have also told you that they could not talk about this stuff either. So that's why a lot of the other board members don't know about what's going on, because they couldn't talk to you about it. That's it. Sorry.
Thank you, Teresa. Anyone else want to speak?
Janie, I think I'm in the lineup. This is Becca.
Okay, 8379? Is that
That's
you?
me.
Okay, go.
Chris Howell probably could have told you that, but sorry, this is Rebecca Cole, first grade teacher at Wyndham Primary, Sebago East Shore EA president, MEA and NEA boards. And I also want to echo the concerns brought up by Jamie and Susan as far as not primarily, but first in my little bulleted list here would be that these staff members would be going into a new school unit with no contract, with no association, and no school board with whom to bargain such a contract, which not only is a concern as far as hiring quality staff who will be looking for those qualities in a new school unit, but we want to make sure that these staff members have the same benefits that they would have if they were choosing to go to another district that already had those things in place. I understand, certainly having negotiated a number of contracts now, the notion of contract negotiations being confidential, but I think that there was a survey given that the results were never made public. There were updates from the committee that never happened. There's been very little communication from the committee, certainly from being a Windham resident, but I'm also hearing from my Raymond staff members that they haven't heard about it either. I believe that you all received an email from Raymond resident Grace Levitt earlier this afternoon that expressed some of those concerns. And I will just close by echoing again Susan's sentiment about the impact that this separation would have on children in this RSU. We share myriad services, which we are able to do because we can create FTEs, full-time equivalents, and hire high-quality people who would not take a part-time position, but we are able to access their expertise and their knowledge and provide instruction for children across our district. They're able to collaborate across our district, provide the best programming that we can for these kids. As a professional, I cannot overstate the value that there has been in the collaboration between Raymond and Windham. And anyone who would discount that obviously does not know the job that we do or understands the relationship that we have. This would be devastating to our school communities. For Raymond or Windham to try to replicate the services we are able to offer as a separated situation is unconscionable to me as an educator of small children, particularly given the impacts of the COVID-19 virus. The relationship that we have built over time, and there are certainly members of you on the board who have been part of that and watched that happen, has been astounding and has built value into the opportunities that we have to offer our students. So thank you for the opportunity to speak. And I hope that not only the board, but the communities will make the right decision in this situation.
Okay, anyone else want to speak? The motion before us is a motion to approve the negotiated proposal so that this process can continue. I know that it does not in any way indicate our feelings about whether we should, whether Raymond should withdraw. It is only a motion. It is only a motion to accept this agreement so that we can move forward to have more hearings and more information from both sides. Okay, so if we're ready to vote. Okay, all those in favor of this proposal?
Anna Keeney,
Yes.
Kate Bricks,
Yes.
Marge Gavoni,
Yes.
Jenny Butler,
Yes.
Scott McLean,
Aye.
Annie Cumming,
Aye.
Christina Small,
Yes.
and Pete Hensler.
Aye.
The motion carries. And I will sign it in tomorrow, somehow, some way. Could I have a motion on appointments, please?
I'll do it.
Jenny?
I move to approve the following appointments for the 2020-2021 school year. They include Brittany Cabana, speech therapist, Windham Primary School, Master 7, at a salary of $52,903. Kate Tompkins, pre-K teacher, Raymond Elementary School, BA 3, for a salary of $43,284. Caitlin Cashman, pre-K teacher, Raymond Elementary School, Masters, 2 years, second step, $45,229. Olivia Hamilton, grade 1 teacher, RES BA 0, $39,524. Lori Bond, gifted and talented teacher, Raymond Elementary School, Jordan Small Middle School, MA 19, $66,499. Chelsea Scott, English teacher, Wyndham High School, BA 1, $40,554.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment? Any board discussion?
Just, I know the board likes to know, Brittany Cabana, Kate Tompkins, Caitlin Cashman, Olivia Hamilton. Those are new positions related to the budget that was passed yesterday. Lori Bond and Chelsea Scott, those are replacement positions.
Okay. All those in favor?
Anna Keeney,
You're mute, Anna.
Yes.
Kate Bricks,
Yes.
Marge Gavoni,
Yes.
Jenny Butler,
Yes.
Scott McLean,
Yay.
Janie Cummings,
Aye.
Christina Small,
Yes.
Pete Hensler.
Aye.
The motion carries. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Anna Keeney, Kate Bricks,
Yes.
Marge Gavoni,
Yes.
Jenny Butler,
Yes.
Scott McLean,
Yes.
Janie Cummings,
Aye.
Christina Small,
Yes.
Pete Hensler.
Aye.
Thank you all. We'll see you next week to certify the results of the election, except for Scott. Thanks very much for being here. Bye.
Thank you. I'll see you next week.